Hello and welcome to episode 102 of Ruse Radio. We are back at it again with a very special guest. Special guest, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Josh Gloor. I'm a Chicago-based comic and podcaster.
And the cat has left the building. All right, so tell us about yourself, sir.
I'm really clinically depressed. No. Well, there's probably some truth, but it's all self-diagnosed. No,
you should start dates like that.
Oh yeah, well, I quit dating. It's atrocious. But I did have a good time with the flight attendant.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hopefully she wasn't the last date.
No, she was.
Oh.
But I moved to Chicago about a year and a half ago, and with the idea to, because I started comedy in Colorado Springs, and I think Chicago, for a lot of arts, not just comedy, but I think Chicago's the most bang for your buck you can get without going coastal to New York or LA.
Why is that?
Just more pricey, just more expensive, really, like going to New York or LA. And I think Chicago's a more wallet-friendly place. I think the competition's probably more fierce also in New York or LA, which is good, but can also be bad. But kind of my idea was, and I'm far from it, by the way, but my idea was why not conquer a respected comedy city? Because I would say pound for pound, Chicago might be the best comedy city overall for aspiring comics. A lot, but like whether that be improv or whether that be stand-up, and then why not make a reputation or name for yourself in Chicago, and then if you did want to achieve, because you can be, I don't know what everyone's goal in comedy is, but Netflix would be nice, but it's not. I don't need to do something like that before I die. I just want to be paid to tell jokes, and you can definitely make that happen in Chicago, and be under the radar. For sure, like you don't need to be an A-list name, so to speak. So that's why I came to Chicago, although I've done little.
Did you know about that before you got here with the comedy scene and all that? Because you told me earlier you came for comedy.
Yes, I researched a little bit of it, and that's where I made the bold claim that I think pound for pound, Chicago is the best comedy city.
Chicago will take you to Pound Town.
Almost in an endearing way as well. But
Yeah.
So. What I had noticed in Colorado was, granted, like I just started, but I always give Colorado kind of a hard time. With social media and clips, I don't do it personally. I don't want to do it until I'm paid to tell a joke. But with social media, it's easier now than ever to become a comic, and you don't need to go coastal that used to be the requirement. You have to go to New York, you have to go to LA, and Colorado is always, or not Colorado, Denver is a good comedy city, but, and just like anywhere else in show business, there's gatekeeping, even here in Chicago, that I never had a friendly welcome in Colorado, and I guess I've never gotten over that, even though I did it a handful of times, to be so, I don't know. My first open mic here was vastly different than one in Colorado.
In terms of the audience and the way that the place was run and all of that, like the whole thing was different?
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily the comics' fault in Denver. But for example, I went to an open mic and the list was pre-numbered. Which some are, some aren't. And it was pre-numbered 1 to 100, which is insane. You should never sign up for a mic that has potentially 100 people going up. And I made my way on the list somewhere at like 41 or something. And then there was this just like topsy-turvy, like, okay, this guy, he his name's a little more well known. He's also my friend, so he's gonna do a full 5.
Oh.
I have not, and then here you get a minute and 30 seconds, and I don't know. I like a challenge, and that's also why I used to. Like this year, I really started honing in setup punch, like quick jokes, not necessarily one-liners, but setup punch, tag, and because I only had a minute and 30 seconds to work with, I can't start out a bit that's going to take a minute and just do one bit. Like, I don't think that's an honest rep. I mean, you can make it as honest as you want, but that's all your
it's
time.
Kill Tony episode.
yeah, literally, and so, like, I get it. Like, I that could have been my first night, you know. So why give me a full 5? But also, like, I've never done less than 4 here in Chicago. But I think in Colorado it's a saturation thing. I think too many people want to be comics, and not enough of the established guys or businesses are looking out for the guy that just started or the guy that sucked for 3 years and just now is finding his or her or their rhythm.
Yeah.
And so it's like so a lot of elbow rubbing. I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but a lot, and that's good. Like, but me, I don't want to fucking talk to people that I have to say that was funny, that was funny, or like, you know. And I'm guilty of it myself. Like I think I sound like my influences at times. And they say when you start out in comedy, you are gonna do an imitation of your influence until you hone in your own voice. But it's like, why am I giving this guy that is clearly a big Shane Gillis guy, who gets more time when I'm just watching a great value version of Shane Gillis? And that's not a dig on him. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't want to.
I think that often what happens is you become an amalgamation of your influences. Like, eventually you can pick, like, oh, he's elements of this and elements of this and elements of this. But yeah, you see a lot of that in music too, where people just don't even know what they are. And it's like, oh, you're just a knockoff of this sound. Like, I can tell you listen to this guy a lot. One thing I take as a compliment is, like, I'll have songs where it's like some people will say, oh, you sound exactly like Kendrick Lamar on this, which I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And then they'll say on a different song, oh my God, you sound exactly like Eminem. Oh my God, you sound There's one thing I have on TikTok where everybody compares it to, Danny Brown. So spit that shit to make your mouth demo, because that's how I rap in it. But it's like, you just have to... It's because I'm not trying to be anything, and I'm just being myself, and people are picking out, like, oh, this is like this and this and this, because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I know that's what it is. But it's like, and the best comedians, they started with something else. Like, Bill Burr's great, but Bill Burr's great because he's kind of reminiscent of this and this and this, but he's also just great on his own.
Yeah.
So that's every comedian. Even Shane Gillis himself. Like, he wouldn't be here if it weren't for other comedians that kind of did that style, and he was influenced by that. And no one's perfectly unique. It
no, 100%. And it's like, I think the best advice, and I think it's okay to be influenced by who you want, and the best advice that but the thing is, when anybody gives advice, I heard Anthony Jeselnik say this once, anytime anybody gives advice, you're giving them presets to how you perceive things.
That's a great way to put it. Wow.
So it's almost like, if I give you advice, I'm just tailoring you to my preferences. And like, but the best advice I think I've taken and given was stop listening to your influences, or like writing. When it comes to writing and performing, I would, the last time you listen to your influence, I would make it a grace period. And granted, I have not found I'm so far from finding my voice in comedy, but I know at least I think doing this will help. And I think that's what a lot of entertainment advice should be, is, as we talked before we started recording, is whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
If subconscious or conscious Shane Gillis impression makes you happy, you're getting laughs, and I'm sure
maybe you are Shane Gillis.
And I'm sure, and if it's working, then by all means do it, because I know I'm not going to be the only one to think
And your perspective that you're putting onto that's I've never heard that quote before. That quote was so great you could say it blew my mind. It's a mind-blowing quote. I love things that blow my mind. I love getting my mind blown. All right, who doesn't? It's a great feeling. And I love it so much that I decided I would get a t-shirt saying that I'm a professional mind blower. That's right, we're selling t-shirts, folks. Professional mind blower t-shirts. Not only do I get my mind blown, but I blow minds for a living. And I want you to know, and I want everybody to let everybody know that you can blow minds too. Go ahead and get a t-shirt. It's $25. It helps support the show, and it's also just a freaking awesome shirt. It's a fun thing to have. It's a nice little novelty to pull out of the wardrobe every now and then. Let everybody know you're about to blow some freaking noggins, okay? You can do it. I can do it. We all can do it. We all got mind-blowing capabilities. Again, super awesome way to support the show. The other awesome way to support the show is the Patreon. Without you guys, none of this would be possible. You make this possible. $5 a month. If 200 of you did that, I can quit my day job and just podcast all day long, okay? So please, can we just get some more people on there? Let me know that you love what we're doing here. It means the world to me. This is what I want to do, and I love bringing people in and highlighting them. So let me know that you love what I love to do. All right, let's get back to the conversation about our influences. I wonder if he was quoting something else, Anthony Jeselnik, because that's great. That's great. Just because that's always everything you hear ever. It's always a reflection of someone else's psyche.
Yeah.
It's always their perception of whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
So but I agree with you in the sense that no role models. You should have people you look up to, but also everybody has their own thing that makes them that. They are that because of all these different things. Yeah. It's not, and you will never be that. and you don't have their life.
And it's like a big argument you just have with yourself over the course of your career. It's always going to be there. I think it's important to have influences, and I think it's also important to. You don't need to crack the code now, but it's just always leave room. Like I say too, you should never be 100% set in any belief. You should be 99% and always have that 1% for to look. I don't know.
I think certainty on its face is often in performance. That generally is something that I think that speaks for more than everything else. Say I'm really, really genuine on stage and I'm saying the dumbest thing ever. My genuine reality that I believe in is what sells that. And it could be the dumbest thing in the world. But because I said it and I felt it, people are like, yeah. Yeah, no. That's really real.
It's almost like being your unapologetic self, and which I struggle. I'm a spineless people pleaser, and
hey, at least you can own up to that. Yeah, you know it's true, right?
And that's the start. And I think that's a nice workshopping exercise is where I say all these things out of my mouth, but what's going through my head is maybe that's my stage persona, and it's just a constant trial and error, and you'll never be happy, and you'll learn to sleep with a gun barrel in your mouth, and it's just a never ending. As long as you wake up another day to fight the good fight, I think you're winning.
I think you win life when you wake up and that shotgun barrel is down to tuck to the side. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't go for it.
And it just almost becomes this some people, there's grown women and grown men maybe that sleep with a plushie, an animal. That's what my shotgun is. It's my comfort thing now. Can't sleep without it.
Don't judge somebody. You don't know them.
No,
just because I sleep with a shotgun tucked under my mouth does not mean anything.
I think, although I think everybody should absolutely judge everyone.
You think so?
I don't think
it's a controversial opinion.
I don't think you should pass off judgment as fact.
But you should judge them. I think judgment is human. I think you could easily argue that judgment is a physiological thing that has to happen. Yeah. It's how you know whether or not I'm going to eat this food or this food's going to poison me.
No, and I think people should also. This is where it gets hairy with judgment, and I think when you factor opinion and feeling, and whether it's love or hatred, And I think when you do that and try to convince somebody to have the same, to think the same line of judgment as that just came out of your mouth, I think that's where it gets misconstrued and bad, and
Absolutely.
and it turns less to human instinct, and I think the old saying where if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
I said this thing recently. When I have real good ideas, I tweet them so I don't lose them. That's how I keep my smart ideas. It's either that or a giant note thing on my phone, like I'm schizophrenic. So it's one or the other. Yeah. But it was, what was it? If you don't like the answers, ask better questions. And what that means to me is like, if you don't like the responses you're getting out of people, like you feel like these people are all against you or this or that, it's usually that you're starting from the wrong place. And kind of like you said, you're asking the wrong questions. You're putting your own beliefs on top of it. Like usually with most people, we all share a general humanity. We can all agree on that. Mm-hmm. So when you can really connect with people in a neutral way, I find that like there are people I talk to, I probably, if they wanted to debate me, they would find we disagree on like 1,000 things, but that never comes up because we're just talking about whatever. And like people get lost in such stupid stuff because really who your friends are is who you get along with and who you connect with. It's not about what you guys think about this and this and this and whether or not you align with everything. The best times, it's actually people who disagree that are coming together, and like you can come up with different things together that you wouldn't come up with if you all were the same. You don't want everybody to be the same.
No, yeah, it's I liked. I work in hotels, and some hotels have people that have been there for decades, and I prefer to work with those old guys.
Yeah.
Just because I know we don't think alike, and if we do, that's kind of miraculous and entertaining in its own right. But
bro, we should hang out sometime.
It's like it's just they also can sit in in silence. They can sit, like I learned to sit in silence. Maybe not so well on stage, but in conversation, I know I don't have to say or react to anything, and it really bugs me, and I feel bad because I think it's just a thing of anxiety, which I have much of in my own self. But like they're just like fidgeting, like what to say next, and it's like don't say anything.
Yeah,
like get lost in your thoughts for a moment, and if it's worthy saying out loud. Which anything is, but I think we get in our judgment that our own judgment that this person might not give a shit about it, and it's like I kind of struggle the same way being friends with comics. Like everything, like humor is like a defense mechanism, which I thrive when I don't talk to comics, but when I am in my head where it's like, oh, I don't want to say that, or if like you almost have to find a real human struggle with them, and that be serious for a moment with them, because like sometimes I'm genuinely curious about it. Like I'm genuinely curious. When was the last time you drank a 12-ounce Mountain Dew?
Are you asking?
I'm asking.
Oh my God, so long. Because the problem is now, whenever I pull out, like, I'll say, oh, I want to drink some pop, and I get a glass of pop, I'd take like 3 sips of that thing, and I'm like, hey, I don't need this. And what was I thinking?
my answer was just this morning, but no, I'm kidding. But
I don't blame you. You're holding a Diet Coke right now.
Well, I drink Diet Coke because society tells me. Usually, white women in society tell me that it's the better option.
They might be right.
And I'm a slave to Diet Cola now. But see, if sometimes I'm not all the time. It's not. But if I ask a comic that they're like Mountain Dew is such a punchline. Where I'm showing vulnerability, where like I don't want this to turn into a joke. I'm genuinely curious, and maybe we can riff about that. But like I just have these like points of genuine interest, self-interest. Usually, it's never like.
I think good comedy is truthful. I think if you can do that, like, and that's like, it's again about that personality thing. Like if you can just hone in on yourself and be yourself, but also answer comedically, like that's actually, I think it's kind of the rules of improv and the rules of performance, and all of it is just kind of be intuitive and not, because what happens is they hear what you said. Oh, when's the last time you got a Mountain Dew? And I said, like, I don't know, I Mountain Did your mom last night. It's like, okay, I guess that's where we're going with this.
That's great. If anybody said that to me, I would hand over all my jokes. You right now
It just came into my head.
You have my whole body of work just because of that. That's
Thank you, sir, because it just comes to me, this stuff. I put them into raps instead of jokes. This is the problem, is if I went on stage and tried to do comedy, I already know I would get lost in the sauce. I'd be like, oh, they didn't laugh at this. They didn't laugh at this. I'm absolutely 100% confident when I go on a stage and perform in music. Doesn't matter what they do. I can do whatever I want. They just have to watch me. They'll be like, oh, wow. But if it's like comedy, I put it like it's a dance monkey dance scenario. Like you have to dance for them. And if you don't dance right, they're disappointed in the monkey.
But I also think going to that genuine self, if you can blend that with the actual guidelines of comedy, then I do think you become in a way unstoppable force for your own sake, for your own good, even if it doesn't benefit them. And like truly, I do think everybody should do what they think is funny. And I still think you should apply external factors like, oh, I'm married to this joke. I love it. They don't like it. I can always think it'll be better, but like if it's not good, like I do think it reaches, if you like it, nobody else does it, you've told it for a year, or whatever your time limit is for a joke, then just retire it. I mean, like maybe you can bring it back, and I think you should, especially when your audience becomes more niche. Yeah. But you do gotta like learn to tap out for your own sake, even though if you love it and it's a A+ joke in your mind, because then now you're just disregarding the audience. Which, by the way, when you perform, you perform.
Thank you, sir.
Like some people, especially in comedy, myself included, they don't perform. But I've seen musical acts where it's just, I didn't feel like...
Oh, most of them. Most of them? I would say maybe around here it's a little bit better of a scene with music. But like, I just find... I have high standards, okay? I have high standards. If you see me perform, as you said, I perform. I look at it like this is the moment I'm in. I got to own this 100%. And so it just disappoints me when I see people go on stage and not do that, because you have such an opportunity right there. Yeah. You can do it. It's really all about how much you believe in what you're doing. I think if I went up and did comedy, I would just talk like I'm talking right now and try to be funny. And if they didn't laugh, I'd be like, I don't think I'd really even care. But like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's at least my approach with music, is like, it's whatever. At least I know I gave it everything I could give it in that moment. And it was what it was. That's the beauty of the performance, is it is what it is. It doesn't have to exist externally outside of this. It's just here for these people right now. Sometimes it might not even be good, but that's okay. Yeah. Because it was there in that moment, and that's what it was. People get these expectations and they think of it as this grand thing, like just perform, just go up there and just do it. Yeah. It's actually not much. It's really, you're just stepping on a stage and you just overthink it. You overthink, oh, these people are looking at me. Oh, they won't get it. Oh, what if they don't laugh? But really, it's like, what does it matter if they do or they don't? Like, at least you stepped out there and you tried, because most people can't even do that. They don't want to take that first step and get up there and do it. Yeah. And so for me, it's just like a religion. That's why I can go up there and perform like that, because it's just, I religiously believe the things I'm telling you. Yeah. No, it's like I had made a stupid joke the other day. I could never lie for somebody else, but I could lie for myself, because I got the conviction, and and I could be my own lawyer, but I don't think I could be someone else's lawyer. But it's like, it's just a great observation. It's like, yeah, and there, like, to me in comedy, like, the only performance advice I could ever give is don't say your jokes, tell your jokes. And there is a part of me where I don't trust myself enough, where I do got the notes, and because I am like terrified of radio silence, and like where I'm like, and then I start saying, oh, hold on, let me just check over, because I do try to at least have bullet points, like even if it's just one word, a set list, and then I'll try to trust myself from there. Like, of course I'm gonna remember the joke. I might fumble it, but of course I'm gonna remember it, because I've rehearsed this, I've written it down, I've typed it in all these different ways, but I just don't fucking trust myself enough. I go through that same thing though. Like I think a lot of people who perform feel that way inside. Like it's just overcoming that. It's just like ignoring all of that and somehow doing it anyway. And you know, you hear a lot of comics, like established comics, say that like, oh my God, the first couple of years I performed, like I've heard it so many times. Like they're basically expressing that when you start comedy, what you're really doing is learning how to be in front of an audience and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the first like year or 2 or 3 years. It's just, it could be the first 5-10 years. It depends who you are.
Yeah.
But eventually it becomes more of a stream of consciousness and you just kind of talk with them instead of through them.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do though. It's hard to do for anybody because I think that's the internal battle of humanity is like you versus fear.
No,
you
yeah.
versus anxiety. It's everything. Like
Yeah.
it's overcoming that. I have a song called Go, not to self-advertise, but I'm very proud of this song just because that's the whole idea behind the song is like you either stop or you go. It's just one or the other. And you can stop yourself or you can go. And that's every choice you ever make. Like when you're on that stage, you can either feel confident or you can let that feeling of how this could go wrong lock you in this like state of you could be in that state forever. Anything can go wrong. I've just learned to kind of live with mistakes too. Like it's okay if something's not going great.
Yeah.
If a mic sounds bad, it's kind of funny. You could just think, oh man, this mic is crazy. Like
No, yeah.
look at that. There's so much shit going on in here. They barely hear me. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? That's a fun spot to be in life.
Yeah.
Because you won't be there forever.
No, 100%. It's like I'm very bad at flipping a situation or first initial feeling of whether it be discomfort or irritation. I'm very bad at that. I'm self-aware, but I'm bad. And for example, that doesn't translate well to anybody in the world, but like at my place of work at the hotel, we have these really shitty old bell carts that we'll use if we're just busy. And it's just annoying to take them out. They look disgusting. And they have like these clay wheels that don't roll very well. So you're working even harder. And then I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. Why am I getting annoyed by this? This is a 5-star hotel and I'm showing up with this fucking jalopy of a cart. Like that's fucking funny. Like, like that's...
It's like a Three Stooges episode.
No, yeah, it's like... Even and the guest also isn't thinking that, and the guest could translate to the audience maybe. They don't have that same frustration I have with this shit bell cart. And then maybe the shit bell cart could be like, they didn't care I flubbed that fucking line, or if I just sat there in silence for a moment while I try to refigure out my set list. Like,
and that is the truth. They really don't usually care.
No, yeah, and it's like, I don't know, but like anything else in this world, to find that level of not giving a shit but giving a shit enough, like it is a thin line to tread. But also when you're stressing yourself out with these factors and these decisions and your actions, even if it's a quick impulse action that lasted 2 seconds, like you're critiquing that moment harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
And like, you got to be a pretty big asshole to be like, oh, well, you fucking did that. You did that. Like nobody wants that for themselves. And I think people usually do, minus those assholes that do a pretty good job at not even mentioning it, even if they did notice and take stock. That's a good moment to judge. You can judge that he didn't do this or she didn't do that, but you gotta keep it to yourself. And that's that little tiny etiquette, I think, holds the world together.
Yeah. I would definitely judge myself gracefully. I would be that guy to just lie. I'd be like, I didn't do that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's
I was perfect up there.
I watched a lot of Seinfeld, so that's like a good Costanza, like lie to myself, like, and then you believe it was conviction.
Yeah.
But it's
sometimes that's what you gotta do. Fake it till you make it, baby.
I never. Do you? I know you're just saying that, but do you ever believe it or encourage it, even if it's not to yourself? Like you're like, good for that person.
I think that at the very least, it is important to recognize that, like, even if you fail, the people who succeed had a mindset of success. Like, generally speaking, you have to be thinking in such a way in order to succeed. If you don't believe in yourself, you should just tell yourself you do believe in yourself, because that will eventually get you to a place where you can believe that for real. So to an extent, I do think it's true. There's certain times it can be taken too far. You can't fake everything, okay? I'm not the president of the United States. As many times as I might tell you.
I think especially in like creative arts, like there is a you do got to believe these and be convicted in these delusions you have to yourself, and I think that's truly what separates you from the pack. But yeah, there is like times where like if I'm doing my podcast, I'm like talking as if I have an audience of 10,000, and I'm like, but that's good. But sometimes it's like I don't believe in myself enough to fake it till I make it. But like if there's another set of eyeballs on me, it's like, you bet your goddamn ass I'm a great podcaster and comic, and so, but yeah, it is like I'm crazy enough to believe it for myself, but it's hard to. I don't know where I was going with this, but
it's hard to follow through with that, though. It is hard to, because in the process of performing, that's where you're truly tested. Like, that's where it all has to come out. And I think I can't remember where this all came from. Like, there's a quote I've heard, but it's that, like, learning to communicate your ideas is truly, like, the best superpower you could have in life. Like, learning to translate your ideas into words properly is one of the absolute best things you can do, because what that is the general communication that you'll need for everything else. Like, there's a reason that I can do interviews and podcasts, because I've always been able to do that. And I wondered, like, what is the difference? And I think it's just that I formulate things in such a way that allows people to reciprocate. But I've just had that instinct. Yeah. A lot of people don't have that. They don't know how to carry a long conversation. It's not in them. And I don't blame those people. But it's like little things like that, where you just need to, like, learn the inner workings of it, and then you feel a lot more confident going up there, because that's probably just a miscommunication thing. It's like, you really do believe in yourself, but then when you go up there and try to put it on people, it's kind of hard to.
It can get sloppy quick.
Because it's like, damn, that joke was so funny in my head.
Yeah, no, 100%. So
what'd I fucking do wrong there? That was actually great.
And I'm like really guilty. Like my biggest gripe of doing the open mics night in, night out is because I'll write every day, but I don't. I like the idea that I just came up with earlier in the week or that morning. I want it to like marinate or just like sit around for like incubate, and like I don't trust myself going with it that night for the sake of, oh, it was funnier when it was hardly a conceived idea. Because I do want to be thinking about it in my subconscious. So because I'm not doing that quick enough, I'm like, I get frustrated doing the same set like longer than a week. But I also know that if you don't like this, what are you going to do if you are a paid comic and you are doing the same set every night? And but that the only difference that I can convince myself with that logic is, yeah, I'm doing the same set that has proven to work, and it's like I'm not giving myself the chance to be like, well, start to prove these jokes, and there's always room for improvement. Like, as long as you say a joke in that working stage, if you say a joke and you changed one thing, and you can do that for 6 months, I think you're winning if you keep changing it and adding to it, or trial and error with it. But I get in my head saying, they know where I'm going with this, yada yada, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, this joke sucks. And but it's it's like I don't know.
Fail before you even start.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, that's me giving a shit, and like the audience, like, if they've heard the same joke for 6 months and they are aware that I'm changing it, I don't think that offends them or hurts them or hinders them in any way.
And the comics might even notice the differences, and they'll be like, "Oh, cool! Like I see what he did there." The comics who see you at these open mics, maybe they'll remember that joke you did because the comic understands it more than a general audience.
No, yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I see. He's workshopping that."
But sometimes they tune out because they're like, "Oh, I know where he's going with this," but they have this thing where their ears will perk if they did notice the new thing, and they're like, "Holy shit! I actually did notice that," and I did
like a whole new punchline, or like the jokes turned a different direction, and there's a million things you can change jokes and punch up a joke. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I always want to punch it up in Chat GPT, and then I try. I'm like, well, this isn't authentic. And
does it ever help though?
So if I'm like at a crossroads and it gives me a shitty tagline or something, I'm like, oh, that's awful. I would never use that. But it gets my brain thinking, like, maybe it might make me think of it said something about a sea, and then maybe I'm like, well, I didn't even think about this other river. And so it's like kind of like that, where it's like
that's the best way to use it.
Yeah. You don't want it to write your jokes, but I also, I don't know, like sometimes I'll hear comics accept and say, oh, you gave me this tagline, you gave me that. And I get it, it's just a tagline. It's just some sprinkles for the cupcake, but I almost feel like it's not my joke anymore. And that's it's like I don't want to ask for help. And but that's a me problem. And I'm sure, I don't know, I can't speak confidently, but I'm sure maybe somebody has given Carlin or Pryor or Norm Macdonald's a good example. Like I know he's been given jokes and it's just him delivering it and he gets all the credit and that's good, but it's just like that integrity within self where it's like they laughed for a whole minute or even 5 seconds out of this 5-minute set and it wasn't even my joke and I'm a phony, I'm a fake, and but yeah, it's just it's a community and we're just trying to help each other because I've given people taglines but I also have that ego where I'm like, that's mine.
Yeah. but I heard everybody laugh at that. I wrote that.
Yeah. It's so like I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Even in music, again, it's like songwriting. You'll see people who don't write their songs. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like, I thought what we were doing here is at least for me, with rap, it's like I thought hip hop was this thing where it's all about individual expression and it's this raw consciousness I'm allowed to put through in my own way. That's what makes hip hop to me, is that I can do that in my own way. And then like Kanye West releases a song about his daughter that he didn't write. It's like, how does this work? Yes. So are you feeling those words, or did someone write that down and you went, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know if that's the same. In my mind, if I like you for you. In comedy, it's a little different. With music even, like I've heard Rick Rubin say, if you're familiar with Rick Rubin at all, he does all these podcasts now. He didn't used to do that. Before he would do like little interviews. But now he's all over the place.
He had one with McConaughey.
Yeah, did he? I didn't see that one.
2 hours.
That actually sounds like a great conversation. Yeah. Wow. But he's really good at putting it out there that ideas, they don't come to you, they come through you, in the sense that like if there's a great idea you have, it's because you're capturing that moment in time. You're able to, it was there and you caught it and it was such a good idea that it resonated with people. That's what makes an idea so good. Like it's more about finding the idea, and he like highlights how people will have great ideas and then 6 months later someone else did the idea that they had and they're like, oh hey, the person's doing that thing I thought of, but it's because it wasn't really your idea. It's just something that was in the moment that someone else clung onto. And so that's a great way to look at it too, is like you can catch things at the right time.
Yeah. It's that is really like interesting. That's like a spiritual take on creativity, which I think is very spiritual in a lot of senses. kind of is interesting too, because in comedy you'll say so and so stole a joke, and it's more, I think it's more blatant in a local comedy scene than I do on the mainstream kind of, because I think parallel thinking does exist, and or someone else had the idea came through them as well, and I know some people, fans, get up in arms about they stole this joke from yada yada, and it's just like, well, you gotta understand. Anyways, that's the whole thing.
Shout out Louis C.K. and Dane
Cook.
Yeah, that's like one of the OG ones I remember.
Yeah,
and Carlos Mencia stealing everybody's jokes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's like one thing that got Joe Rogan so big in the first place, is he's the one who made that a big deal.
He was a whistleblower.
Yeah, Carlos Mencia whistleblower. He's never been the same since, Carlos Mencia.
Oh no, it's like, in a way I feel bad for the guy, but I mean, if he was blatantly stealing jokes, there's no.
There was at the point in time where anybody could just go on YouTube and figure out you're doing it. It was really the beginning of that.
Yeah.
2004, 2005. That's probably where people stopped stealing as many jokes. Too much evidence.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I could never, even if it was a case of parallel thinking, I would never. It almost gets to the point too where if someone. I remember my first open mic I ever did. On top of all the nerves I was dealing with, I heard a guy do a fortune cookie joke, and I had a big fortune cookie joke where it was like I read a fortune cookie, or I love fortune cookies, yada yada. It said the fortune in the cookie said, "A loaded gun is full of possibilities. Lucky numbers include 911 in the suicide hotline." And then
that was your joke?
Yeah. But he said something about the Chinese spy balloon. What was it? Spy balloon? Chinese. It was like something.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was like a headline.
That UFO that floated through America.
Yeah, and that's all it was. But I was like, oh, I don't want to. But that's a me problem.
You could have said though, you could have worked it into it. You could have said, speaking of...
No, yeah. And I think those little things I got to get better at.
Earlier you said about how a comic should acknowledge if an audience does anything, or they say something at a certain time and all of that. I think it kind of goes with improv too. Improv, that's the rule they try to teach you, is awareness and acknowledging everything. So,
yeah.
Which is hard to do. It's hard to do that because you in your head are just doing the thing. You're doing the routine. And so to integrate what just happened into that is hard.
No, yeah.
And it takes comfort too. I don't even think I've done enough reps. I think I need to go on stage a million more times before I really feel comfortable, because I judge myself in the way you're describing. I do that too.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, what the fuck? Why the fuck did I choose to say that? I came up with a way better thing to say 15 seconds later.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, that's what I like about the open mics and the whole comparing it to a gym or repetitions is sometimes we'll say in real life, oh, I wish I would have said this, to defend myself in this argument, or that would have been more and I truly do think, in a sense, it sucks in real time, but open mics kind of are like a time machine. And it's I came up with this thing 15 seconds after I said it. I'm going to do that next time, and I'm going to make sure I be diligent about that. And you got to, I don't know, maybe embrace a little bit of the failure, but I think you got to put a positive spin on it. And again, easier said than done. And that's just how life will always be. But have you done any performing outside of the open mics? Have you ever done any shows in Michigan or anything?
In the past, yeah. I've done shows in Michigan. There was from Flint. In Flint, there was a place called the Flint Local 432. But the thing is that there's not much of a big audience in a place like that, and I wasn't traveling too much. There was a point when I was in a band called Lemon Collies, and that was probably the highlight of my performance career so far, just because that taught me a lot about how to, I've always been a performer, but that was rock music. So that taught me how to translate that kind of energy on a stage. It's different than rap. It's a whole different thing. They kind of did an indie rock thing, but I don't even listen to indie rock music. So a lot of the songs we were doing were kind of this different kind of thing. It was, oh, dude, I'm like romantic about that period of my life. They're great songs. And so the whole thing is like, it just sits in a certain type of performance. And I guess like doing that, and then with hip hop, I would say I started back in I wish I could tell you. I think it's 2012, 2013 would be 2012 would be when I started making music. I think it'd be 2013 would be my first show ever. I think that's how it would go. And that was, I remember like I was standing on stage and the microphone, I couldn't figure out how to pop it out of the thing. So I just did this the whole time. I moved as much as I could.
That was my biggest fear when I started, like I wasn't going to be able to do it.
I couldn't do it. And in the moment I figured out I couldn't do it. I was like, like I was trying, bro. I was jerking that thing off my face.
but you improvised good with it.
Yes, because even then I thought, oh, well, this is what this is. I'm just going to go with this.
Like a Steven Tyler kind of take, yeah.
There was one performance I remember I did it with the band, and I remember I held it was just a period in time where I would do this, where we were at those shows, and I would hold my hands behind my back, and I would just sing like this, because I just thought like, oh, that's the thing that, I didn't think of it as this is what I should do, this would look cool. I thought, oh, this is the thing to do here. And so I remember somebody came up to me after one of those shows and was like, oh, you did that thing that this other singer does where they keep their hands behind their back the whole time. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't think shit of that. So I think performing is just my favorite thing to do ever. Mm-hmm. I really, really love it. It's the reason I do music. I think it's what music really is it's meant to be performed. It's meant to be in front of people. That's what music originally was before we had all this digitized version of music. Now you can hear a song mixed and mastered right away. You can hear a million of them. Yeah. When originally it was like, oh my God, I just heard someone perform music for the first time in my life and I'm 36 years old. Like that was only like 400 years ago. So music's a whole different thing now. And I look at music like comedy, like everything. It is kind of a spiritual thing. It really is. It's a spiritual exercise in a way. Comedy is like a form of release just like music is, where people can feel themselves through it. I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. That you can achieve such a thing.
Yeah. And I think sometimes what I get caught up in, and maybe a lot of external cues taken, is I think it is very important to be present, which I'm historically bad at, but and I want to learn to be better at it. But like each show is unique and different from from the other, even if it's the same. But like I think a lot of our ideas of the finished product that's not so much performance based, but because performance is definitely a goal along the way. But it's like you get in your head of the final product of like, oh, that one it cut a Netflix special, or oh my God, like you think of are they going to be playing my song on the radio? Which I don't know. I feel like radio play has always gotten kind of.
Will my song go viral on social media?
Yeah. That's a better way. One. Yes, and so yeah, it's like I think we get caught up in that final product, and it's like.
And the process is really where the work is. That's where the fun is, and everything is in the creation and in just doing that over and over. But you get lost in this idea. It's really like you're idealizing something. Like, oh, there's gonna be this final version where everything's good. Yeah. It doesn't exist ever for anyone.
No, I often get caught up in my parents' suicide, and I fantasize about that, but I'm like deer in the headlights with the actual note. I don't got anything down, and it's because I'm getting caught up in the final product of it. But
but the joy was in the ride.
No, yeah, 100%.
But that really is. That's just the lesson of life. Truly, is like, dude, you could literally die right now. I hope you enjoyed those last 24 hours. Like, that's kind of how life always goes. Yeah. Life's a bitch, then you die.
No, yeah.
That's why we get high.
Oh, yeah. That's, I'm the biggest, the biggest addict there is. No,
Congratulations, sir.
I wish I was, but
Imagine if I just pull out a trophy right now. I'm like, look what I've got.
you know what I tweeted the other day? I was kind of like spiraling out of control, just like tweeting, which I've gotten really good at not tweeting whatever I'm thinking, but I was like, in my experience, I'd give substance abuse a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Like if we're rating it on a Richter scale.
Like just like you know, like a 90%. It wasn't 100% because I broke through it, but it did make me feel good, and I didn't have as many problems that I was masking as some might have, but I was just too content. That was
It was too good.
Yeah, and if I didn't have these subconscious thoughts or even conscious thoughts where I'm like, what am I doing? It could have been a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I would have died in that state of mind.
Yeah.
And so like, but like, and I get like there's worse stories. Like mine is I always compare my addiction to there's the first ballot Hall of Famers who fucking didn't kill their spouse, but like maybe left a slice, like slit their arm or something and left a scar on them. First ballot Hall of Famer, like addiction really grabbed a hold of that person. And then there's me he's addicted, but he's just at the park shooting hoops, and he's doing it for the love of the game. He doesn't need the accolades or the big resume. So, but like, yeah, I had a really tame dance with addiction.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's different for different people.
100%.
Some people, okay, I'm torn on things like this because I think that people oversimplify everything, and they act like, oh, well, you shouldn't do drugs, you shouldn't be addicted to anything, like it's all about self-control. Not exactly.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, everybody's got a different, like, makeup. Like, some people, their brain is wired to be an addict. Mm-hmm. It's what they are as a person fundamentally. And that is so different than being the person that can just be like, I do it, I don't do it. Like, those people, both of those people exist. But those people who just don't do it talk to those other people, and they tell those people, why don't you just don't do it? And it's like, no, you're missing something here.
Yeah.
It's a lot deeper than that. And that's different for everybody. And those addictions are different for everybody. Some people, I would say things like sugar and caffeine are just a really easy thing to point out to everybody. Because everybody is addicted to those things on a certain level. Yeah. Whether you can admit it or not, caffeine, maybe not, but sugar, almost everyone. And so it's like, you can recognize that. If I were to stop consuming sugar for 2 weeks, my life would be different. If I were to stop drinking coffee for 2 weeks, my life would feel different. It's a drug.
Yeah.
And everything can become a drug. Everything, even experiences, can become a drug. I'm so addicted to being on stage, I don't even like myself when I'm off stage. Some people think that way. Like they get addicted to performing, or they get addicted to eating, or they get addicted to exercise. You can get addicted to anything. Too much of any good thing can be bad.
Oh, yeah.
And so all of that. And then there's the other part of it where some people have their best creations when they're on drugs.
I have heard of this phenomenon, and granted, I didn't do too many drugs to experience it with, but I am curious. I was just talking to somebody about it last night. They're like, should I stop my weed hiatus for creative purposes? And I was like, I have no answer for you. I truly don't know.
There's no right or wrong answer.
I think I write very decently or creative enough. Although I've never given writing like actual like high, like off something chill like marijuana. I've never given that an honest shot, but
I think what marijuana really helps with when it comes to writing is it allows you to kind of like, you can melt, your idea comes to you in different ways. Like I'll have it where because I smoke a lot less than I have historically. I've gotten better with this.
Yeah.
Where I try to just smoke when I feel like it rather than, oh my God, I need to always smoke. Weed is my alcohol. Like how, I don't know if alcohol is their substance of choice.
Yeah.
For me, it's marijuana. I don't really care for alcohol, but marijuana, oh my Lord, it's a problem. It's actually a problem. I will obsess over it.
well, that's good because some people don't have that awareness.
And that's the start of all of that. Is just being able to acknowledge that it is not normal behavior.
No.
Perhaps other people experience that addiction, but bro, I got to be able to enjoy life here. Like we can't just spend life doing this.
I say, and it's very cynical and it's very half full and half baked. But sorry, I did say half full, but I meant half empty, and half baked. But life is, for the run-of-the-mill person, life is miserable and bleak and mundane. Maybe not miserable, maybe that's the most, but like, I truly encourage everyone to find something, ask these internal questions. Like, I don't know who Josh Gloor is. I could not answer that in a sentence, but I could start with, I know what makes Josh Gloor happy. I know what makes him mad. I know what makes him sad. And so work from that internal core and spend money on whatever the fuck you want, whether it be drugs. I hope it's not. I hope it's not copious amounts of drugs. And
if it is, you know my phone number.
Yeah, put it on the screen. But whether if it's not drugs, it's traveling, it's going out to eat. Some people really love that. And I think it's all for a picture on social media, but that's another thing. But I truly
power to you.
like I was telling you before we started, like I think drinking and carrying a 4 or 5 beer buzz and watching YouTube video is a state of excellence for me. But it's not gonna. I have these.
That's when he reaches Zen. Is when he's right there, 5 beers in, and
then I'm watching something interesting. But it's a lot of scrubbing and filtering to find that, like, holy shit, where it's the apex of the high. But like I have these lofty dreams and aspirations, and right now I'm not saying I'll never. I don't think it's fair to ever ask an addict, is this the last time you're ever doing that? It's not fair to ask them that. It's a lot of responsibility and pressure that I don't think you need to hold them accountable.
You plan on relapsing?
No, yeah, and I make lists of people who I'd relapse with. Like that's like you're good in my book. I'd relapse with you.
Wow.
And or for you.
For you.
And so it's like,
you want to do some coke? For you, anything.
Like just with like how like mundane life can truly be, especially with a 9 to 5 or working 40 hours a week. It's pretty repetitive, but you should add some flair in that. And so like, I don't know if I'll ever not drink again, but like right now I got some figuring out to do before I can actually enjoy a drink or with company with people.
Yeah, what I find is I feel like I get out of alignment. That's how I could describe it best, is I can literally feel myself not as aligned as I was, and then I don't smoke for like 2 weeks or a week. I just give myself some time, and I'm like, whoa, that's literally all it was.
Yeah, I wish I could give myself time, but I'm like, oh, it's the next time, or like, because like I quit drinking 3 times this year, and right after the second time, I don't like, I feel like relapse is a pretty like vicious word for somebody who's just shooting hoops at the park and not a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when I did start drinking again or fall off the wagon, I think that's better. When I fell off the wagon,
Yeehaw.
Huh?
Yeehaw.
Oh yeah, and I just drank on days I didn't work, and that for the first time in 7 years, that was the first time I could put gaps in between not drinking. Granted, it wasn't long gaps, but it was a win in some sorts, but it was also a loss. And
you're practicing moderation.
which doesn't exist supposedly. And I can neither confirm nor deny it. If you're truly an addict and a slave to the substance, so to speak, they say it doesn't exist, and I think there is some truth to that. To where I could go out tonight with friends and drink and probably be okay and not drink for another 2 weeks. But I have that thought in my head where it's like, well, I just did put a little break in my recovery countdown.
What's the term for the people that they have hang out with you, like a sponsor? Like I know, like when you're in AA, they'll give you somebody that'll hang out with you to make sure you don't drink.
Yeah,
I forget what that's called.
I think it's a prison warden.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah. It's like
But for what you just said, the fact that an addict will think that way. They'll be like, "Oh, this is just one night. This is just one time."
And it's like I could have success not doing it again, but it's in the back of my mind where it's not going out. That's not the problem. The problem is I'm going to eventually slip away from the presence of people, and I'm going to be drinking alone, and I'm going to be a loser, and I'm going to know I'm a loser, and I'm not going to have that. Like, it's not fun in that sense, but I want to keep doing it. But like, again, I value just being alone. It's like maybe I value it too much because I don't know. It just gets to me sometimes. But like,
I think more people value being alone now than ever, for what that's worth. That's good and bad.
Yeah,
because there's good in being alone, but there's also. Are you familiar with the book and the movie Into the Wild? Oh, so it's about this guy named Chris McCandless, who he runs away from home. He becomes Alexander Supertramp. This is a true story. And so he goes all around the country, and he's just like, he thinks that, money's worthless, and he doesn't want to live the life that society provides to him. He's trying to live this free life, and that was what he tried to do for a couple years after he graduated college, until he eventually moves to Alaska. Or not moves to Alaska, but he takes a journey to Alaska where he's going to camp out there in the Alaskan wilderness and survive off the wilderness and then come back. That's his plan. That was going to be supposedly, that was going to be the very end of his trip. That's where we went all around the country. I'm going to go to Alaska, and then I'm going to go home. And he left without telling his parents and all this. And he comes from this like put together family where they put him into college and they did everything a parent could do, but he just rejected all of that. He didn't want the society that was provided to him. And then he goes to Alaska. He dies in the Alaskan wilderness after he can't cross the stream that he crossed to get there, because right when it was the time for him to leave, the water had risen, so he can't walk across anymore. And now it's going to get cold out. And then they think he ate poisonous berries. That's what they think happened. It wasn't anything. Like, he starved to death because he ate berries that made him the process of his starvation set on more quickly. I'm not entirely sure. But what he wrote before he died was, happiness isn't real unless shared. That's what he wrote. And to me, that's like, his whole story was that. It was a guy who ran away from all of the people that cared about him, and he went to all these other places and formed these other relationships. He was searching for isolation. He ends up in this isolation, stuck there, and then he comes to that realization. Like, this whole thing. It was all about me looking for happiness in myself and in solitude, when really the happiness is only real when it's between me and you. It doesn't matter if I have happiness alone by myself, because what is that really worth? It's sure, to me, it's worth something, but like, what is purpose in life? It's generally the effects you can have on other people and what you can share with other people. So to me, it's like such a profound thing. It's like, holy shit. Like, he's right.
That's crazy. I think I may have heard about the story, because that sounds a little familiar, but definitely gonna have to check out the movie or the book. That's sad.
It's sad because for multiple reasons. Like, one thing that the book demonstrates more than the movie is that a lot of it came from his home life. So a lot of it was like his dad. It's kind of like a spoiler for the book, I guess, but like, it's part of the story where he found out at a certain point that his dad had a separate life while he was with his mom. So he would go to this other place and he had this whole other family. And he didn't know this until he was an adult graduating college. And so then he had like idolized his dad up until this point where it's like, oh my God, this dad was a liar the whole time. This guy wasn't even who he was saying he was. And he didn't find out through his dad. He found out through someone else and confronted his dad about it. And so that, and I think his dad was abusive towards his mom too. So that was another part of it. Just the point of it all being that it's not even as simple as someone trying to escape society. It's someone who had a bad home life, and then taking that and running with that. Oh, dude. The whole thing it's a sad story, but it's also kind of nice because he did, for the last 2 years of his life, live that life that he wanted to live. He did travel the country and kayak down these rivers and do all this crazy shit. I mean, that's nice. At least he lived on those terms. There's also a part of the story where he met this older guy and he convinced this older guy who's like 70 years old, like, why are you stuck in this certain lifestyle? Like, you should change your life and do something else. And he got all upset with him about it because the guy would always talk negatively and he'd say all these things he wants to do. And then he said, look at me, look what I'm doing. Like, why are you not doing this? And that guy changed his lifestyle and moved out of his house to some RV so he could travel around the country and stuff like that. Like, he changed his life because this kid said that to him. And I guess that's just the effects we have on people, right? Like, that's what life is really about. I really think that. I think that that's why it feels good to perform. I think that's why it's nice to go and just have a set and just be with people. It's nice to experience that because you can't do that by yourself. No, I love being alone too, though. Don't get me wrong. I can't write music my best unless I'm like stuck in my own head, like in my own solitude. It's harder when I'm paying attention to. What's
the writing process like for you?
For music?
Yeah.
So I like to think that things just come to me in such a way. Like, it's kind of allowing that to happen. It's like if I hear a beat and there's a certain thing there, usually I find it in there. You can write things by themselves, like even it's best when something has a concept behind it. That's one thing I've really realized. Like, of course that's true, but it's like if you can say the concept or the theme in a simple term, like if I could tell you what this song represents basically is X. Like, this song's about relationships, this song's about betrayal, this song's about doom. Like, there's like a mood and there's a theme. Thinking thematically is actually a way better way to write a song than is to think literally. Like, to think this song is about this specific thing. Because then you can kind of paint a picture and make something grander than what it's presenting itself as. So, like, the song In Vain. I have a song called In Vain. And it goes, Jesus Christ, why does wrong need to be so right? Why does life need to be so long? So long to all the needless fights. Need advice, peace is nice. Throw it long and I beat this tight. Ain't no catch when the leash is gone. Ain't no dog when I reach the light. Ain't no tip when I reach the cap. Ain't no cap when I breathe this smoke. Ain't no reason to let it all out, but I let it all out and I breathe in hope. Ain't no reason to hold it back. Ain't no rhyme when the season spoke. Jesus Christ, wrong is right and the darkest light is the greenest grove. I can't tell you exactly what I'm saying there, but I can tell you the general theme of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of things being said there, and that's really where the magic is that I don't say it exactly.
Yeah.
I could tell you like how I came up with each line, but I think like overall it represents something bigger than itself in such a way. So I try to write everything like that. That's why I suck at writing things simply. Like if I'm trying to write a simple rap song, like, oh, we're just gonna rap about this simple basic thing. I can't do that. I think esoterically and spiritually, dude. I'm cursed in such a way.
No, I think it's sometimes I get frustrated with it, but I think it's nice when you leave interpretation to the listener or the audience. I don't think it translates as well in comedy, so I guess I'm just speaking as a fan.
I think to an extent it does, though.
To an extent, like, yeah, but it's...
Because like the best comedy, wouldn't it be like something kind of a shared idea where people can identify with it?
Yeah, but like I guess I was thinking like literally where it's like it's coherently like a setup punchline and like because like a general like a like in a thematic kind of way, like it is a little, I feel like it's a little harder to like maybe in a sketch, I think, but a stand-up comedy, I think might. I don't know. I don't know anything about everything, but
Sometimes you can catch like a comedian will make you think a joke is going somewhere and then they go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's kind of that same thing where it's like I can see the process inside of it, and that's what's nice about it. Is there's something cerebral about that exercise. Like we're having fun with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it with us. Because if I'm just saying, like with the song, it's the same thing. If I say it exactly on its face, what you expect to hear, then you don't have that realization, that feeling of like, oh, he did this instead. Like, oh,
yeah.
That is a hard thing to. That's like almost. That's an art in itself, if you ask me. It's kind of why I said that thing earlier about like learning how to express your ideas, because you can't do that unless you know the baseline of expressing ideas. I couldn't do that in Spanish. Okay?
I just off topic. There was a guy that was at an open mic, and he said this was his first open mic in a long time, doing it in English. And he got the light at 4 minutes, and he just kind of ended his set there, and he just said, in Spanish, I get 6 minutes. And I don't know why that was so funny, but it was.
That's hilarious, dude. 'Cause he's probably not even joking.
I know. I was just like, and I like.
He's like, guys, trust me, I'm way funnier than this.
And I just like also that it was generally like in Spanish. It wasn't like a location or anywhere. It was just like, oh, in Spanish we get 6. But it was great. And then, see, I wish I could, like, I struggle doing things like that where I'm like, they're not gonna care if I tell them in Spanish I get 6 minutes. But it was also like you just gotta trust yourself. Like that was a natural instinct, he said.
Yeah.
And he's probably a naturally funny guy, and that's why he does comedy.
Probably.
But yeah, I like interpreting stuff, but then I don't, because I do genuinely feel dumb a lot, and so I like it in my face, literally.
I think people laugh when you say dumb things, though. Like, because I feel stupid, and I feel like I have stupid responses, but generally, I'm just like, wow, people, they thought that was funny, thank God, because I sounded like an idiot.
Yeah, like the absurdity is, sometimes, like, especially in sitcoms, I'm like, oh, that's absurd, and that's why it's funny. It doesn't need to be a clear punchline. And I know I was saying, like, I feel like it needs to be by a guideline or external, but there's people that do like absurd comedy all the time, like in a stand-up setting, and
I think it's
funny, and it gets,
they follow their instincts.
Yeah, and so like
that's why it's so absurd.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's like well, I don't know what it's like, but it's just interesting how much I'm trying to see more, not in just comedy, but like there's so much fucking gray in the world. Like,
yeah, and the gray, I think, is where the truth lies. I don't think the truth is on either the black or white side. It's the combination of the two. That's why I like that gray area. I identify with the gray area more than anything else.
I do too. I can't ever be so certain about something, and I don't feel right being so certain. I mean, of course I can say something where I am so certain in the idea, but it could be an absurd idea.
Yes.
And so that's why it could be funny, but like with actual beliefs, thoughts, and opinion, like it's like I'm almost on the fence of so much, and I try to take in both sides. I try to, like, if I were in that situation of my belief or opinion or thought, depending how I'm feeling at the time, I would try to use that experience to navigate it through that way. But is that the right way? Is that the wrong way? I don't know, because I have yet to try it.
But having a trait like that, I think, makes you far more empathetic, because you can understand how people come to other beliefs. I think that when you allow yourself to see both sides of everything, like, it is difficult because you feel like you don't know where to stand, but at the same time, it gives you that middle ground to navigate between everybody else. Because when you're so certain, you feel so certain and you kind of won't budge and you can't move. And so say you encounter somebody who does think differently. Well, now you just have this butting head situation.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm in the gray area, I can talk to both of those people and have a productive conversation both times. I wish everybody was in this gray area, truly, because you would have a lot more production going on. You'd have people like engaging with each other.
Yeah.
People get caught up on dumb stuff.
No, yeah, and I think maybe what might even kill humanity is a lack of awareness or situation. Like I'm a very big, and I'm just projecting on everyone, but I'm very big. I sleep very well at night, thinking I'm a very aware person, like situationally aware, where I might not understand the outcome of either opinion or the fact, but like if I'm saying something and I look at like a response, a nonverbal response, I'm not going to continue hitting the what is it? The nail?
I thought you were going to say vape pen.
Oh, no. I will continue doing that at a playground in front of children's faces. But it's just like some people see that nonverbal body, like that cue, and it's like they continue to hit the nail on the head, or I feel like nail on the head is when you're being precise about something that's objective. Anyways, they continue to beat a dead horse, and it doesn't go anywhere. And then now, like you said,
I think
you
the phrase
both
is "fuck a dead horse."
yeah, which is like much like the substance abuse, a 9 out of 10 experience.
Yeah.
I just can't recommend it to people, but it's like that. I don't know. It's like I have never been. I would say I'm very opinionated, but I've never been. I don't want you to think how I think. Like in an ideal relationship, I don't want to be like the other person. I want our difference because it creates more conversation. It creates more perspective on two sides. If I was just with a little minion, then I'm like, what are we good for? Like,
I'm Dr. Evil.
It's like, I don't know. There's a bit like, and I guess that's why they say opposites attract. But yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I take comfort when someone's like, yeah, I don't want to go over to the Johnson's house. They fucking suck. I take comfort in that.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes perspective is good, and they always say it's good to break away from your comfort zone, which I'm bad at, like 100%.
You just learn things in such a way. Mm-hmm. And I think it makes you a better creator. I think if you're someone who's trying to be creative and diverse in their creation, you actually want to experience different things in the way that other people don't. Like you kind of need to see that other side of reality. And I try to think of everything as a sort of learning experience in such a way. Like, even if I don't like it, what am I learning from it? Like, what is happening here? Because no moment can be wasted if I'm thinking in such a way.
It is harder to do it in real time.
Yes.
And I think that's a hurdle. It'll make it, you can hate it as much as you want or feel as uncomfortable as much as you want in real time. But I think you should be aware of the situation or aware of like, what did I learn out of this? And yeah, comedians will, I mean, I feel like it's an outdated phrase, but they'll say something along the lines like, I'm only doing this for material. And it's like, that's a decent way to approach it. But like, yeah, like I think I heard Andrew Schultz and Nate Bargatze talk about, like, you still got to do those little, like, even though you're out of, you already have your audience, you still got to do those things where it's like, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. And it's like, one, it gives you perspective, and two, maybe you do get a joke out of this, or maybe a podcast story. And I think it certainly helps, but I think we all have become, not all, but I think creatures of habit. I think it's more common now than it has been, or maybe not, I don't know.
Why would it be more common now?
I just feel like with the pandemic, like, I don't know, actually.
I mean, I think social media, it's like it's an annoying thing to say because I know how it sounds, but truly, like social media, and then you add on a pandemic, people were already heading that way. And then you stick them inside and you tell them do everything online, and people still haven't broken from that. I mean, people sort of have, but you desocialize them so fast.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't argue that doesn't have a psychological effect on people. You could, but I don't think it sounds true, because just look at people. And I just think, too, that social media is not real. Like, when I'm here with you, we have a reaction to each other, and we have a rapport that we physically could not have through even a phone call.
Yeah.
But social media, like that thing I said about translating thoughts, how you are trying to translate your ideas, I'm doing that in one form right now. If I'm doing it through a phone on a social media app, that's not even the same me that I'm representing. That's a whole different person. Like, that's my other persona. That's my social media me. And then there's real life me. But people don't look at things that way. They just think of it all as just, oh, this is just the way things are now. And then you lose yourself, and you lose the humanity in that. Because there's a humanity to real life interaction compared to spending so much fucking time. Like, dude, just think about it. 30 years ago, you get on the subway, there's no phone to look at. Nobody was doing that. And now everybody's doing that. That creates a different reality for people. So I think it is. I think it's the isolation that comes from such a thing.
Yeah.
Like, social media is ultimately super antisocial.
No, yeah, and like with algorithms, it's trying to create a creature of habit and stuff, and like
making addicts out of everything.
Like, I try to ride the train like multiple times in a week, not looking at my phone, like maybe listening to a podcast or something, but even like it feels, I don't want to say freeing, but it just feels interesting, and it makes me feel good that I'm separating from the pack when I even if I'm not listening to a podcast, and I'm literally looking out the window that I've seen all these buildings so many times, and just to stop looking out the window, look around me, and everyone's on their phone, and it's maybe it's an ego thing, but like it's nice. It's a reminder of like, 30 years ago nobody did have a phone to do this, and like, yes, it would be miserable if, even though that I'm not on my phone, it's miserable knowing 30 years ago I wouldn't have the option to pull out my phone. And
there's a good side too,
yeah. And it's like, I don't know, and I tried to like simplify things. Like although I just downloaded it again when I messaged you when I was here, is like I try to keep. I have a burner phone at home,
nice,
and like I try to not have social media on it, and then my like phone's very like simplified.
I've heard of that. What do they call those?
Dumb phones.
Dumb phones.
And I mean, I still have access. I just like, if I wanted to call an Uber, I would just like search in my apps and type in Uber, but it's not on my media like screen. And although I did re-download Twitter, and I needed to take a step back, but
it's just like any other addiction, truly.
No, yeah, and
it's all the same behavior, I think. Yeah,
and I like,
it's hard to quit social media.
And it's like that awareness. Like, it's okay if I'm guilty of going on social media, and sometimes longer periods of time than I had earlier in the week. Like, I think it's okay. But I still think I got to stay true and blue to that awareness that I like want to speak on, and that I think I'm so good at having. But like, I don't know. It's like moderation. It's hard to manufacture, but it might not be possible. Although addicts say that it's not.
Sometimes people are too far gone, and like, sometimes it's okay. So like with the phone thing. Imagine a world without phones, then we wouldn't be addicted to them. Imagine a cokehead who doesn't have any coke. Well, then he can't do coke.
Yeah.
So it's the same principle. We just have way too much access. Like, if there was a way, like the dumb phone thing is nice just because it's a way of you tampering it yourself.
Yeah.
You can at least stop yourself. I don't look at my phone and see 10 notifications and immediately have these triggers go off in my brain. Like, oh, look at all this stuff that's happening. Because really, like, I think it all boils down to simple brain chemistry. Like, you were spending too much time seeing too much shit. Your brain's not designed for that. You actually should have moments where you just look out the train window.
No, yeah.
And it's chill. You're not thinking about all these other things that are happening in the world every single moment. You're just looking out the window.
Yeah, it's like I saw a tweet. I mean, it's silly to say that I saw a tweet, but it's like, we weren't supposed to know this many people existed. We weren't supposed to say these many thoughts per person. We weren't supposed to see any of this. And I think there's a little bit of truth. Like I think like we've adapted to the phone, but like
And it happened so fast.
Yeah, rapidly. It was
Rapidly. You look at like human history, like just modern human history. That's 2,000 years. The phone was like 20.
Yeah, it's insane, and like I'm glad I have access to it. But sometimes there's days where I'm not doing anything. I should probably be doing something creative, but like I'm consuming so much content, and like it's wonderful. Like I'm watching videos that I'm interested in, and I guess for a moment in the day it did make me happy. But I do go like wind down for bed. I'm like, today was a waste of a day. Even though if I learned like 6 things from those videos, it's just like I consumed, and I don't think I was ready to consume this much in one day.
It's like you ate too much. Like
No,
your
yeah,
stomach
literally,
hurts.
and like I was just sad. Like I was just, I don't know. It was like, again, great that I had the option, but it is nice to check out, which is like many things easier said than done. But it's I don't know. It's an interesting phenomenon that's going on.
Are you interested at all in psychedelic mushrooms? You ever try things like that?
You know, I was anti for a long time. For a long time, I was like, I'll never do that. I'm a slave to alcohol. I wasn't saying I was a slave to alcohol, but I in hindsight, I'm like, I was a slave to alcohol. But my buddy Mac,
Things alcoholics never say. That's one of them.
my buddy Mac, he, granted it wasn't mushrooms. It was he offered me to do acid, and he was like, Josh, take this how you want, but you're a personality that needs that, like you would only benefit from it. And I like really was intrigued by that sales pitch, and I was like, really? And like of course we talked about it, and he compared to other people in our life. He was like, they would not benefit from it. He's like, they're more uptight in a sense. They're set in ways in a sense. And I was like, okay. So like I had this like weird like visual factor, and we were in Vegas at the time, and I was like, all these years I was anti psychedelics. I know acid's a little different. And
I mean, it's still a strong psychedelic. It'll have a similar effect in the sense of like perspective shifting as mushrooms would, for sure. It's just different. It's a different animal.
Yeah. And it's like more, it's not as natural as mushrooms, right?
I would say that. Yeah. I mean, even in feeling. Like I was into acid far before mushrooms, just based on what I had access to. So I was thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for. And then I find mushrooms, and I'm like, oh, this is what I wanted the whole time. This.
Oh, yeah.
But acid still, it's its own thing. I mean, I liken it to, I've heard this somewhere, acid's like being behind the spaceship controls as it's blasting off, like you're pushing all the buttons, whereas mushrooms is like you're strapped to the side.
That's good. That's like I need little metaphors like that for a lot of things. Even I grew up raised by a single mom, and like I didn't get into sports until I was 16 years old, and like heavily into sports, and like learning it. Basketball was the first one I learned.
I had a friend come to me and say, dude, you're the exact kind of guy that would be into sports. Let me give you some sports to try.
Basketball was the first thing I learned. I was intimidated by baseball, football. I didn't understand football at all, but I had a buddy that was willing to work with me, and he was like, I was like, what's the, like once I learned the actual rules of football, I was like, that makes sense, but I need comparisons. Like what's the equivalent to a 30-point game, and for passing yards, and he would break it down for me, and so that's how I learned other sports, was through these weird metaphors compared to basketball. But I don't even know how I got on
Bro,
this.
it's just like basketball, except you kick the ball.
And but when like I had that real life examples of like, oh, they wouldn't benefit from acid, but you would. And
you know what, your friend, I can see what he was saying, because I had a friend try it once, and I thought he was that kind of person, and your friend put it just right. Some people are a little bit too uptight in their thinking.
Yeah.
Like they're too locked into their ways, and that puts them in a bad space. You can see it happen. Mm-hmm. They get they stuck in loops.
Yeah.
But continue with your story.
Well, finally he convinced me to do acid, and I was like, all right, hand it over. And then he just said, like this whole presentation, he just said, no. because we were about to, like, in 2 hours, we were about to board a flight, and he's like, "You're not doing acid for the first time from going through TSA, riding an airplane." But it was so funny. I was so anti, and I finally switched, and then he was like, "No, I can't let you." And then I just never did it. I've been open to it ever since. But
you never even did it.
Never even did it. And that was like 6 years ago.
Wow. So you mentally you flipped, but it didn't even actually happen. You're like, you know what? I could do this. Oh, I guess today's not the day.
Yeah. There was times.
He was right, too. If your first trip would have been on a plane, you would have sworn off acid for the rest of your life.
No, he was a good salesperson. He was like, the supply's not in demand right now. like you need to. He's like, maybe like when we get, but it's like, I don't know. And I also like was like with after that amazing sales pitch and then that amazing good friend saying you're not doing it even though I just convinced you. It was I was like, I think I want to do like acid with you or other friends much like you or me. And then so that's what I built it up to, was like it was kind of like I'd relapse for you. It's like, I'd do acid with you. And then anytime I was like truly like down and had some time to kill, like nobody was available. So I was like, all right. But it's yeah, I don't know. I just never. I think I still have that same thing where I was anti psychedelics. I think I have that. I don't have that reach. Like even though I flipped and like I had a change of heart about it. It's like I mean, I don't know. I guess a lot of drugs that I've ever done, it's like I only did like if the timing was right. Like I would never buy cocaine, but if someone offered it to me, I would always do it. And it also like saved me some money, like or pitching on it. I would never like because like I didn't want to get in a loop where it's like, oh, I just spent $80 on a gram. I can make that back in a day at work, and then it just becomes like a really bad spending habit. But yeah, cocaine's not a good drug to do either.
No, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
It's too expensive.
It's just really. The only cool thing about it is you can be 10 out of 10 drunk, snort a line, and you're still 10 out of 10 drunk, and the alcohol is in your blood. But like it's so crazy. It's like literally like the scene in the Denzel Flight movie where he's fucked up and he went on a crazy bender and he's about to go to court, and then they do coke and he's like brought to his senses. Like I didn't think that existed. I thought that was in the movies, and I did it. I was like, oh, this is dangerous, and I shouldn't ever do this again. But I don't know if it's present here, but in Colorado with the I-25 going south to Mexico, there's a lot of like fentanyl running, and like Mac and I both have had friends pass away from it. And, at that point, I was like, I'm content with never doing it again in my life.
Kids these days don't know. It used to be different. Now there's fentanyl everywhere.
Well, like I mean, like I preach like I don't have a problem if you do drugs, but make sure you're doing them safe. And like
acid's the same too.
Is it?
Fake acid, yeah, for sure.
Oh, damn.
Like so you can buy test kits for acid where it's like there's an Ehrlich region and then another one, but they're little regions. It's like a little thing you can drip into it. And so you just drip it on top of, you cut off a tiny piece of it, just a tiny little piece. You don't need to cut off the whole thing. I don't know how this would work if it was like one with a design on it. I don't know if you could see it the same, but probably. Yeah, you could, because it's the color of the liquid that changes. So if the liquid changes to a certain color, that's how you know it's real. Simple as that. You cut off a little piece, you do that, it should be purple, whatever the color is. And you look and you're like, oh, it's purple. Okay, it's real acid.
Shit.
I mean, you can't probably do that with Coke. You can't do that with Coke, and if there's fentanyl, maybe there's some test you can get.
I think there's some. I don't know. I'm ignorant to it, but like, you should do drugs safely. But at the same time, I get it. You don't want to do an extra step. You just want to do drugs.
Yeah, but that's how you die.
No, that is how you die, unfortunately, and you make a lot of your friends and family sad, and then there's that.
Dude, even like weed now, there's fake weed, or not fake weed, but like those pens, or like vape pens. I remember there was off-brand vape pens you could get at the store. Like you'd go down to the gas station and you'd get these Mr. Vapors, but they're actually not Mr. Vapors, because if you look for certain specific little things, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't like all the other ones you sell. And like I looked it up, and there are fake Mr. Vapors that they'll sell at these like Indian gas stations. Like there's shit like this that happens.
Does it still get you in some way high?
It's just like it's a nicotine thing, but the standards are so much lower because it's fake shit.
Yeah.
So they're just putting whatever they want in there, trying to pass. There's no regulation going on here. That's what's so crazy about things like that. Like, and those shitty little vape pens that you can buy for like $1 from Pakistan that are made for like one penny. That's what kills you. That's how you die from these things. But that's like everywhere with everything, dude. There's nobody looking out for you in the modern world. Like, nobody. You ought to look out for yourself. I guarantee you. You go buy Coke, like you said, feel free. But, dude, there's got to be some way to check, right? Because you can't just be doing anything. Even with, like, weed, dude, sometimes people will pass weed over, and I'm like, should I hit this? Do I know this person that well?
No, yeah, it's just dangerous and sad, and I don't know, like I wonder if that's also why, like, they say sobriety is becoming a upward trend with like a young, like what's the new is it Gen Z?
Maybe it's something new now.
Oh, I think they're Zoomers.
God, Jesus Christ. It makes me feel old, just the fact there's even a term for these people now.
but I think
Zoomers in the audience, I'm sorry. No Zoomer slander up in Ruse Radio.
I could live without them, but no, I'm kidding.
Hey, we'll have like a war, you know?
Yeah. No, I think, well, generationally, people have never bothered me, but I just know there's goods and bads in all of them. But I wonder if, like, people, because you would think people maybe like getting sober, that might be an upward, but I think it's literally people who are having the Gen Z. I think they had a disinterest in like going out and partying. As opposed to like I did this phase of my life and I'm quitting, and so like, but I don't know. I wonder, because I could see millennials being a key point in it, where they're like, yeah, I'm tired of my fucking friends dying, so I quit experimenting with drugs as much. But I think these Gen Z guys and girls, and they're just like, not really interested. And it makes me think, what are you interested in your rec time on a Friday night? Like, is it? Because, like, I'm a sucker for I still like the atmosphere of going out, but it's got to be a non-alcoholic beer. And it's kind of nice. I mean, it sucks that I'm still spending money on something that won't get me fucked up or any sort of high. But it's nice to see the people I'm out with, they're getting fucked up. And I'm like, that's my cue to go. And, and then I even Irish goodbye as a sober guy.
That's great. That's great. You know, it's good that you can do that. Because for me, again, it's like you flip that with marijuana and I'm fucked, dude. People will be holding weed and they're trying to pass it to me. I'm like, I guess I could do it right now. I guess so. It's hard to tell yourself no. It's hard to just say, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I can't be here. That's hard to do. And you know what is nice about it, though, is when you are the sober one and you see people get more and more drunk, you can see, at least with alcohol more than weed, I think, but I guess it's different for everybody. But people, you can see their inhibitions fade in such a way, and it almost makes them less effective as a you can see it happen. They're like, oh, they were this person, and now they're this person. They would actually probably be doing better right now if they were the person they were an hour ago.
Yeah, it's...
But alcohol's fun. No, it turns all that off. So
it is nice.
I don't know. Is it good or bad? I don't like it. I've seen enough fuck-ups on alcohol to where I'm like, okay. Like, that mistake probably wouldn't have happened if that guy wasn't drunk right there.
That's when my interest peaks. I'm like, I need to be making more mistakes.
Ow.
No, I'm kidding.
Your life story is going to be interesting.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's fun to be sober in a way, but it's not. I hate to say it, but I was granted I haven't really put one foot in front of the other, but like I felt like, even though if it was masked or whatever, I felt like I had more purpose when I drank, because it was all turned off, and I just like, even if I was thinking creatively and like wake up the next morning, I'm like, oh, that idea sucked. But it was I literally simplify it to, it was just fun, and it was a nice way to turn off. But I wasted Bill Burr as a thing where, I don't think it's a real comedy bit, but something said through podcasts. He's like, don't waste all your fun nights drinking, getting really fucked up. And unfortunately I did, just watching YouTube on the couch. And I still have some in the bank, and maybe I'll cash in, maybe I won't, but I don't know. I kind of want to go through like a toxic period in my life. Like where
You are planning your relapse.
oh yeah, I'm thinking about it a lot. I mean, well, it's funny too because I want to live this like toxic period, but I know if I do it, it's just gonna be me on the couch drinking every night. And
It's gotta be a different phase. Like that was the previous toxic period. We need a new, improved version.
I just want to fall in love with a recovering alcoholic, and I'm like, me and you, baby. Let's just do this.
Let's Bonnie and Clyde this shit.
Let's just fucking be the worst version of ourselves. And because bendering's fun. Like I can wake up and brush myself off and say it's time to get back on the wagon. I've never like struggled to where it like every time I've quit drinking, it's been at the stop or a drop of a hat. And I'm like, I got that down, but I do miss like, but you know, I romanticize it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I would be like, if the train's running late and there's a bar there, I'm like, too bad I'm not drinking. I'd get a beer. And then, like, the truth is, if I was drinking and the train was late, I'd go into that bar, I'd get as drunk as I could before the next train, and then I'd go home and continue to drink. It's not like I was using it like as a buffering thing. I was using it as a kickstart to get a nice buzz going before I drank whatever I had at home.
Yeah. And it's like what you've been saying about moderation. You're saying I'm going to have that moderation, but you actually know what that leads to. Because, it's... I have to break that pattern, too, where if I smoke, I can't just... Because it's like that song, Because I Got High by Afro Man. That is a real thing, okay? I was going to do all that stuff, but then I got high. I really... And that's real. Like, I have to force myself. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to clean my apartment. And then I smoke weed. I'm like... Dude, does it even really matter?
Oh, no. Not at all. No.
But it does.
Yeah, it does.
It actually does. I was supposed to do the laundry that day. So it's like, there are things in life where you have to overcome such an impulse. And that's impossible for some people. Some people literally do have to quit full on, full stop. I know that it helps me if I do abstain for like a long period of time. Like... I learn, this is a lifestyle that people have. Oh, yeah, that's a thing. You drink all the time, you forget that. You're like, doesn't everybody drink all the time? It just kind of feels that way. And then you don't for 2 weeks, and you're like, wait a minute. It's a different reality I'm in now.
Yeah, it's like, and to piggyback on the moderation thing, like, and I said I can neither confirm nor deny, but apparently it's a conspiracy amongst recovering alcoholics who may be telling the truth or not. What it is you can moderate, but then you're using a lot of brain power and you're trying to justify this, that, or it can turn into justifying this, that. And it's a lot of brain power. And it's like, okay, I drank on my days off. I'm not going to drink these 5 days or 4 days. Or 5 if you don't drink that Sunday night. And it's like, but you're like, oh my God, today was such a hard day. It's Wednesday. I do deserve a beer, and you do. But because you're so conscious about, I need to moderate. And then maybe a spiral does come. It's just easier, not all or nothing. And it's like, it's easier not to do any of it than it is to try to like say, okay.
And once you get over certain humps, it changes. Like, it comes in waves in such a way. Like, say you go 2 weeks, you're like, okay, this feeling's different than how I felt those first few days. And then, like, 3 months go by, and that's a little bit different than it was 2 weeks in. But that's something that takes a lot of willpower to get to each milestone in that. Like, they're all different. To be honest, I can't remember the last time. I think I've went 1 month no smoking in like the last 12, I don't know, whenever I started, like years ago. And it's just that in my mind, it's like, how do I break away from this for that long? I don't even really want to in some ways.
Yeah.
With alcohol, I don't know. I think there's physical defects to weed, too. I don't think weed's great for you physically, especially if you smoke it. So there's problems with that, too. Like,
I got super into edibles for a period of time. And I know, like, we all have that one edible story, or what turns us off is, like, you ate too much. But what I would do is I would take these 10 milligram gummies, and I'd cut them in half, and then I'd cut that half into half, and I'd try to ride this little high. And if I didn't feel it, right off the bat, then I just wasn't going to take more. Or if I did take more, it was another 2.5 milligrams. So it was all, but if I reached that breaking point, it was only going to be 5 milligrams of weed. But it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was like, but I was doing it not drinking. Like the nights I would take off, I was substituting something else. And I would get really, like, I loved that too. I loved just the feeling of being high and eating. Like I had never been, all the times that I smoked regularly, if I did smoke regularly, were in high school. I had to creep into my mom's apartment and act like I wasn't high. And then when I finally had my own freedom, I was like, you know what? I am going to order a bunch of fucking buffalo wings and Mountain Dew and Starburst. And it was fun, but I personally don't like the way that I feel when I'm high. Like, and people could argue the same thing for alcohol, but I don't like I might be paranoid.
Yes.
As opposed to where with the alcohols, people seem to be like, yeah, I'm fucked up, but I'm fucked up with my chest out. And but that's a rabbit hole of some bad decisions. But I was a good drunk.
It's hard because, like, and that's the inhibition thing. Like, I think that Bill Hicks had a great joke where he's like saying people people being high while driving, like, that's not a more dangerous world. Everyone's on the highway going 40 miles an hour. That is less dangerous. Everyone's paying too much attention.
Yeah. Bill Hicks was great. One time I checked out a clip and you had name dropped Hicks. And I was like,
that was the one with the Tool quote, which actually reminds me of this whole thing we're talking about with drugs. I restrained myself from quoting it again. But it was like, you know, all of the musicians, there's people who don't like drugs, they swear off drugs, but then you look at these great rock albums that everyone loves, that these people love, that are swearing off these drugs, and they could take those albums and throw those albums away because they were all made by people who were real fucking high on drugs. That's how it is. And so that's kind of why I said earlier with the question of, like, if drugs are good or bad. I don't know, because some great ideas wouldn't exist without certain things intervening and guiding. Or they wouldn't even,
maybe if you didn't get high off something in a creative sense, not like I'm going to go smoke crack over here, but like if you didn't have that experience, like what Ruben was saying, there's a chance that if you didn't partake, that idea doesn't go through.
Wouldn't have caught you. Yeah. Yes, and that is so crazy to think about because, like, maybe, like, I've had times where I can't get anywhere with something. There's songs I've written while on mushrooms where I just, like, I know what that was. That song I mentioned to you earlier, Go, I wrote the second half completely sober. Like, I was just writing that. That was when my little period of abstaining from weed, so I know I wasn't high during that. That one was sober. But the first half, I was on 5 grams of mushrooms, and I just, like, that song, I already had the beat, but I was like, you know, and then I listened to the beat while I was in that moment, and it all just comes flooding through me. It's kind of like what I said earlier about how, like, I let the ideas come through me because that was there right then. Like, that's where it all came to. The first line is because I wasn't smoking weed at the time, so it was the first line that came to me. Because normally I'll do mushrooms and I'll smoke weed with it, and I'll tell you from experience, almost every mushroom trip I've had, I smoked weed, and it's frustrated me because the best trips I have were like the clearest ones when they're most concise. It'll usually be going really well, and I'll be seeing and understanding everything, and then I smoke weed, and it's like a mind fuck. And so I'm still tripping, but now I'm tripping in this weird loopy way. Yeah. Whereas if I would have allowed the mushrooms to just hit me on their own, it would have got the message across better. And so in this trip, that's what I was doing. I was not going to smoke. And so in the first line of the song, it's, I don't need to get high. Ain't no reason to worry. In my reach is supply. Got the keys to the castle. I got peace in my eyes. I got love in my heart. I'm a leader alive. And the whole thing is about having that confidence within you to make that choice. Like, you already have it. You just are telling yourself you don't have it. It's a choice that you're making. But, like, I'm in my high brain with my absolute certainty, like in my mushroom brain, like, fuck yeah, dude, this is the idea. And it all just flows through you.
Yeah.
And that, what's cool about that too is that song, I wrote those songs separately, but I realized, oh, these are about the exact same thing. And so they just get put together. And then it's like a beat switch halfway through. I don't think you heard that song, because maybe you did. I don't think I performed it at the second open mic you were. You had to leave the second time. So I don't think you saw me perform that one. But
I saw you make your way to Red Room too.
Yes, and Red Room. So I'll say this on camera, and I hope you hear me, Nabu. What we need to do at Glenwood is just the mic situation needs to get fixed ASAP. She was telling me there is speakers there. Like there's a way we can do this. I want to like go with her there on a day that they're not doing the setup and help her, like try to help her figure it out, because that's a great room if the audio's bigger. It drives me nuts because I can kill that shit, but other people, it's like there's just too much going on at that type of thing. Whereas the Red Room is perfect for some. I can do it either way, but the Red Room's perfect for that type of thing because you need to like project throughout the whole space. You have to. That's the beginning of it all. With comedy, you have to. Yeah. Because you have to drown out all that other shit, or else people's concentrations are broken and they can't fully embrace what you're doing up there. Maybe then you guys got to start dancing on stage and catch their attention. I don't know.
So before whatever happened,
the owner switch, right? The people who run.
Well, all the other mics that I did at Glenwood, my first mic I ever went there, I was like, I do not want to be here. I'm never coming here again because this fucking audio is intimidating. And that's when they had the speakers.
Okay.
And then there was times where I was in the middle of the set and I was like, oh yeah, you're just going to have to talk like this for the rest of your set. And I did, and I came back because of course the room's great.
It's a good energy.
Yeah, it's just the fucking audio. So then I come back after like months, like 10 months, 11 months, I think 10, and I see the little like the amp thing. I'm like, this is still a problem. And so I saw Nabu. She was like, this is money for the new
Dream Jar.
Yeah. And so
there's a Dream Jar on stage where people can put money in,
and I put $20 in there, and I asked Nabu after the show. I said, hey, what's the target number we're trying to hit? To which she said, I don't know. And I just said, oh, nice. You're just collecting money. And then she said, I don't know, like $200. I was like, okay, dude, I don't know. I think $20 carries some weight. Not a lot, but I think it carries some weight. If just one mic, everyone gave $20. If $200 is truly, it would be solved. And But
if the thing is, she's not hammering that in. Like, I think if she went on stage and she said, "Listen, we need this much for a PA. We have this much right now." You could even draw a little picture for everybody. Like, if we really, because I'm saying that should be the number one priority at this point in time. Like, because that'll attract more comedians. They'll be like, "Oh, that was a good mic." But you kind of scare people away when it's bad audio. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to perform up here. They might my content might not resonate, and then I'll feel bad about it. Like I think it gives people a weird vibe, and especially people who might not have all that confidence, because then they go up there and they feel like they didn't do good. But it's not that they didn't do good; it's that there wasn't much of an opportunity for them to. I mean, I'm trying to say this all as nicely as possible because I love that mic. Yeah, I do, but I just wish that could change, because that is where that mic shines. It's a great room for energy. The feeling in the room is great. People are supportive in there. It's not like, oh, ooh, I don't know about this.
I'm almost gonna ask Nabu to host, and I am gonna passionately drill. Kind of like in between sets, like, guys, what are we doing? Like, you don't leave. Like, come back and put money in here.
Yes, and I think, like, I asked her about it, and she said it's $200 for it, because I was asking her, like, specifically, like, what are we saving up for? And she said it was the PA. She wanted to get a PA. But the thing is, like, when she was asking questions to the guy who runs the mic on Thursdays.
There's a Thursday
or Wednesdays,
mic there?
I mean. There's a music mic on Wednesdays. Okay. And so she was asking him how they do it. And, like, I guess, I don't even fully understand it. Because the thing is, I don't think he understands. He needs to dumb it down. So, because it's not, she's not an audio engineer. She just usually goes there and plugs everything in and then just gets it all started. That's what it was before, and then something changed. I don't remember what it was. And so that's why she started bringing this. Oh, there was a PA, but then the PA got stolen or something
Jesus
like that.
Christ.
Yeah, like there was a PA that was being kept there. I think that's what it was. And so she didn't know how to plug it in after that and get all the sound going through the whole speakers. She was showing me the last time I was there, there's like a spot where you plug the mic in. She said the mic would run from there, and then that just goes through the whole everything else. I don't know, because I don't really know how everything's routed. I have the feeling that she only understands it at like this basic level because she's not into that kind of thing. And so I was talking to trying to ask the sound engineer guy, but he seemed like he was like, oh, well, I'm kind of busy. Like, I don't really know how to explain this. Like, that's kind of the general vibe I was getting, so I didn't want to ask him a bunch of questions. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. It looks like there's already a way to do it. There's all those speakers there. I think you just need to plug the mic in. I don't know with what, though. I don't know what you need. People say PA, and I think that might be it. Like, I know when you're in a band, you need a PA. So maybe someone's bringing a PA in. I'll go back to, because the reason this is all brought up is the Red Room thing. The Red Room, I liked a lot. Because Red Room, like, one thing I've noticed, and I'll probably experience this more, is like I have my music on my phone, and like my instrumentals and whatnot, and so I'll have them plug it in, and like in Red Room, it's a little quiet, and and maybe I just need to tell them, like, hey, could you turn the volume up? But I don't know, because I might just be because they're plugging it in through an aux, like it's a whole different thing than everything else they're doing. But it was like that on the Wednesday mic too, but even worse, it was even quieter. It's like, I'm a good performer. I can just barrel through that and it'll be fine. But they would feel the songs on a deeper level if the instrumental was louder. It's just how it goes. So that's one thing I've noticed. But the mics are, all you need is a super crispy. I can kill anything, okay? But if you get my voice super crispy like it is right here, right now, okay? I can be a star. I can shine. I can shine. I'm a golden goose. What can I say? But yeah, I mean, I like the Red Room a lot for that. That's a great feeling. Like the tonality on their mic is good. Like, as someone who works with audio, it sounds good. And that goes for comedy, that goes for music. Like, you could do a lot with a mic like that.
It's like I think that's also like a thing with these open mics, you know, like especially like a bar mic, which I don't want to short Red Room Comedy Club as a bar mic, but they have someone there that knows about this and how to do it, and they're playing music as people walk up, and so like there's somebody that has a general knowledge on this that's helping MC the show. And I think sometimes it's at these bars, it's like up to, like, we leave you up to your devices. We thought you might have known how to do this, and
that's probably how most of them are, honestly. Because most of them, they're just looking for extra business. They're not trying to get involved in whatever the fuck you're doing. Like, maybe I would just imagine, like, they're just kind of like, oh, okay, what do you want me to do? You want me to hit play? Okay.
I'm thinking about moving away from Chicago, and if I had to move somewhere and I shorted myself a nice enough comedy scene, I would have to start my own mic. Like, that's the only like combative thing I can do if I'm leaving opportunity. And I'm thinking Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Mostly for a girl that I've never met before.
Oh, she's gonna relapse with you. It'll be the whole story we're dreaming about.
And
is she a past addict?
No, she's a current one. No, I'm kidding.
Perfect. Even better.
No, I'm kidding, but I am open to the idea of moving, even though, but yeah, I have yet to be consistent in Chicago. I would really like to be consistent in Chicago before I make that decision. But sometimes Chicago's overstimulating, like, to me. It's just a lot going on, and I started toying around with ideas while I was waiting for my Uber driver. And I was like, what's stopping me from making Chicago feel like a small town? And then I started thinking about starting mics in like my neighborhood. And then, because I'd be doing the same thing if I moved somewhere. And potentially, And so I was like, why, what is stopping me from doing that? And then I would save so much time with transportation, but that's really selfish, and I got to be consistent with going and showing up first before I can commit to that. I can't just be like, hey, the mic's canceled for the third week in a row because I just didn't feel like doing it. But there's a lot of things that I got to think about. But Chicago has been love the city, love the comedy scene, but I've shorted myself on a lot of things I got to be better at because I feel like I'm losing my mind a year and a half later.
How do you turn that around?
Oh, just instead of being ambitious but lazy, I got to stop being lazy. It's all a me thing.
Yeah.
Like I get discouraged that I haven't met very many friends, but I'm also at the same time very particular on how I choose my friends and who I like truly want to go out of my way with and hang out, and not just environmentally hang out. And I've always been like that.
What do you mean by environmentally hang out?
Like think of like work friends and like, hey, let's go get some beers after work, and so we're hanging out, but it was all kind of
because you were there.
Yeah. And so like, or it's like I could have a Saturday night free because I'm unpaid talent. Then like, let me hit up Mac or something. Cause he would be on a choice than a coworker I have, or Mac would be a bigger choice, preferred choice before a coworker I had. So it's like, kind of that, but then also I do have a really, really close friend in town, and we've only seen each other a handful of times because we just live on opposite ends, and it's all. But
it's kind of a learned behavior, though, because I think like some people just. I never really had a big group of friends growing up. I had 3 real friends in high school. 3 people I hung out with consistently, and that's just because like we just happened to find each other, we happened to get along, and that became like a friendship that we had. I think. One of them like lived down the street from me, and the other one lived in the same neighborhood. So like, yeah, the classic story, I guess, is they just lived nearby me. But that's how it goes. And I had like a tight-knit group. And so now in this period of my life, it's hard for me to maintain friendships like that because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like schedule to hang out with you?
No, and they say the older you get, the tougher it gets to make friends, and. It's just, and I'm talking about potentially moving somewhere else because I don't want to retreat home. I don't, and just because I know how much I love like being content, and I could not be doing anything. So it's like when I was talking about isolation, I do like it because it makes me think a lot, but it, like you had said, it does have its negative drawbacks, and
because you can only think so much on your own. Like people introduce other ideas and they kind of break feedback loops that you'll have. That's one thing I really, really do like about surrounding myself with different types of people or people who just you're often surprised by things people might even say. They might give you a perspective on something that you just would not have reached yourself. And that may or may not be good. Like you know, I might be thinking like, oh, you know, I'm doing all of this, but what do people really see in it? And then you have one person make one observation, and you're like, oh, okay, people are seeing something in this.
And that's all it takes.
Cool.
Yeah. Just one, and like you're shorting yourself that end of the stick if you're just doing it all by yourself.
And it's easy to short yourself if you're all by yourself because you're your biggest critic.
Yeah, the only feedback I get by myself is if my fucking cat interrupted whatever the fuck I was saying, and I was like, oh, you know, I didn't think of it like that.
And that's not great feedback.
No, it's not. And like,
doesn't mean all that much, you know.
And then sometimes I'll hear the neighbors argue, and I was like, oh, why didn't I think about inviting somebody over here to argue with and then fucking get the cops called for a domestic dispute?
That could have been us.
But I don't know, it's interesting. It's all a me problem. Like moving across the country again is not going to solve it. But I am curious of going to a less saturated market. And saturation can be good or bad. But where it's like a bigger fish in a smaller pond, where it's like I become the comedian there and I'm getting paid to do comedy, and Netflix was never the goal. So why is that such a bad thing to think. And it was kind of an external cue to come to Chicago. And then I stand by everything I said at the beginning. I still think it's an amazing comedy city, if not the best pound for pound, with including audience, improv, and stand-up. Like, I think you're truly not getting shorted here. But I don't know. I'll figure it out. I gotta get a car first.
Yeah, that might be a good start. The problem is, like, it's hard because Chicago is there a big comedy community in Salt Lake City? Like, is it a big established community in the same way that Chicago is at all? Is it comparable?
I just started research today.
Yeah. The spur of the moment decision.
And the only thing
on his way here in the Uber, he was thinking about this.
Well, it was funny. I looked up, I was like, all I typed in was Salt Lake City open mics, and I know they have a club franchise there, Wise Guys. And I was like, Wise Guys, Wednesday nights? One open mic that I know of, that's enough for me. And I just put the phone down. But I mean, I did do a little bit of research, but then I found a Reddit post from 6 years ago that was asking about other open mics. And I was like, that might be dated, but I don't know. For all I know, it could be worse than Colorado.
Yeah, it could be. And like the thing is, it's kind of I think you're on the right track when you say something about like creating your own mic, because I think what happens then is you kind of curate the energy that you might be looking for. Like the people that are going to keep coming in are people that you're going to identify with because they'll like what you're doing with the mic. They'll be like, okay, well, this guy, I like what he's going for here. And so it gives you an opportunity to kind of make your own little group of people, which sounds like what you're trying to do. It sounds like you want like a better community.
I want a cult following. No, but
I want to start a cult.
I do too. Where I just wear like drab olive colored clothing.
Oh, dude, if I started a cult, there'd be so many cool things I would do. I would definitely change my look. Yeah. I would probably I'd go crazy sometimes. I'd wear like a skirt just to fuck with people.
Oh, yeah.
Not even because I want to, but because like I know they'll talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Give them, you curate the talking points of the community. And
today I am wearing a skirt because I chose to, and I want that for each and every one of you.
Also to piggyback on the community and curating, I think also hosting a mic, it's one thing to host a mic and it's one thing to start your own mic and host it week in, week out, I think that helps expedite, whether you know it or not, curate or figuring out that voice that you so dreadly want to know in comedy, because you are forced to be comedic, but you are you can't be on in between. I mean, I guess you could, but if something's fucking up, you're going to show a genuine side of yourself. Like, what the fuck is going on with this audio, yada, yada. And so I think it's scary to do 100%, but I do think it could help. Whether you subconsciously take stock of that or not is, I think, up to you. But I think I used to think that was stupid and I would never start an open mic, and part of me still thinks that, but I think it would be interesting, and why the hell not to at least do it for a year. And but they do say, I don't know if I've heard it once, but they do say that you do kind of make a leap when you start a mic.
I think so. You're doing something different than comedy. That's a different kind of form of hosting. Like hosting things some people just host things. Mm-hmm. Some people, I've met this one guy who's like, oh, I'll host your show. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, that's his thing. He likes to host stuff.
Hell yeah.
So, but that's its own kind of thing, because you kind of, for me, if I were a host, I'd just go big. I already know what I would do. I'd go on stage and I would kind of be into this part of myself. I'd be like, hey, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing tonight? We're going to have a fantastic show for each and every one of you. Proud to see you, and you here. Thank you all for being here, folks. If you want to support this show, we got a jar right here. Throw some money in the jar. $300 buys me a new kidney. How about that? Just say shit like that. But that's my performer mode. I just go into performer mode. So I think hosting it's just however you approach that. I mean, that's how I would approach it, but that's not how you would approach it.
No, yeah. I like, I don't know what I like, but I think it gives you a more of an opportunity to not only, and I know a lot of people try to throw in other jokes, old jokes, try to work a joke that they had 4 months ago in between sets, especially if somebody was just talking about it. And I think that's a helpful exercise. And honestly, I'm starting to think, like, if you host a mic a week, that's like a whole extra 2 repetitions, I feel like.
Yeah, especially if you're putting in jokes in between every set, for sure.
And it's also like, even if it's not a repetition for the joke, I feel like it's an exercise. Like, you're, instead of doing cardio, now you're doing, I don't work out, but lat pull downs.
And
yeah. It's like, so like you are like working these other muscles that you,
and they all play into one another. Like, that's the thing that I think, like, that's why I think it's good to, even if you do comedy, do other stuff too. Like, I found, like, and I say this, but I haven't been following through with it, but I started writing essays. I would just start writing, like, actual essays about things. I would look into a topic and I would write an essay. And that helps exercise that same muscle that writes music and that goes and talks like this. It's all the same. It forces you to kind of have a cohesive thought structure and follow through with that. And so every repetition counts. Like, that hosting plays into the comedy, just like the comedy plays into the hosting.
Yeah.
They both play into each other in a way. You can make it work. And you also, like, it's a rhythm thing too. You get more of a rhythm for things when you do different stuff. Like, the hosting rhythm is different than a stand-up 4-minute set rhythm. Like, if I'm going up, I'm just telling this joke real quick, and then now on to our next guy. Whereas it's not like, hey, they want me to talk for 5 minutes and string all these thoughts together and make this make sense in some cohesive way. Everything's different. I make music, you make comedy, sir. But see, these things in life are what make us all beautiful. We can all do different things, folks. See how I'm crafting an outro like this? See how I'm tying it all together? But that's
beautiful.
True. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing for people to realize. I like to think that we all are professional mind blowers, okay? We're all, like, capable of being able to do something in our own way and utilize ourselves in ways. And all of that starts with a basic belief in yourself. And that sounds cheesy, but it's like you look around and you see people who don't commit, and no one who is doing great is not committing. It's just, you have to commit yourself, and you have to feel yourself in such a way, because you are what you are. And you know what? You'll never be anything else. So you might as well just accept it sometime, okay? I mean, one of these days, it's going to have to happen where you're just going to die. That shotgun's going to be up against your head before you go to bed, and you just happen to pull the trigger, okay? I mean, it's one or the other, folks. You got any message you want to send home to them?
Oh,
and then your social medias, make sure to throw all that in there.
Yeah, be on the lookout for my obituary. If you want,
get in the paper in 3 weeks.
Yeah, hopefully, just in time for the holidays. If you want to follow more of a personal side, Josh M. Gloor across all social media. Content-wise, Afternoon Glory, also the name of the podcast. Glory is spelled Gloory, an extra O in there. And
like Glory with the hole in the middle.
Oh yeah, and something coming out. So definitely, if you want to do that. If you don't, I don't care. I'm gonna get to you regardless.
He means that exactly how you think he means that. But all right, man. And then any final message? Do you think we sent all the lessons to him? You think we taught him good?
Just, if you're over the age of 21, tie your shoes. Don't tie it and then put it under the tongue. Just expose the bow. And that's all.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much for being here. Ruse Radio. Clocking out.
I got the world in my pocket, got a girl on my arm, got an eye in my socket, whirlwinds in my palms. I'm a free man, let me lead you along. I can show you something different, let me sing you a song. Ain't no algorithm touch me, ain't no palace this lovely. I find a way to find a way out.